Hi everyone, welcome back to My Service Dog and Me. Today I want to talk to you about 4 things you should be prioritizing when it comes to your puppy's training. Because one of the biggest issues we see within the owner trainer community is simply poor prioritization, which generally comes from feeling like you need to do everything at once because training a service dog is such a big thing that everybody wants to do right, which is great, but it can lead to a lot of overwhelm. So we're going to talk about the 4 things that you should be prioritizing so that this journey can go as smoothly as possible. So the first thing is life with your puppy. Now, here's what I mean by that. You have to be able to live with your dog. If you can't live with your dog, nothing else matters. Okay. So if you are struggling with house training, play biting, chewing, jumping, anything else that is really making it hard for you to live with your dog, that needs to be your absolute top priority. And if you are also working on task training or public access or healing or advanced obedience or obedience in general, unless it is directly related to that challenge, you are setting yourself up for difficulty now as well as later on down the road. When it comes to life with your puppy, this looks a little bit different for everybody. So you need to think about your lifestyle and what you need your puppy to do in order to live in your house. Do you have a cat you need your puppy to get along with? Do you have other dogs? Do you have young children that you don't want the puppy play biting? Would jumping on you as the puppy grows provide a huge safety hazard? All of these things are things pretty much every service dog is going to learn, but you can't teach everything at once. And trying to do that waters down all of it, making it all less effective, which means nothing moves forward. So the first thing you need to prioritize is any training that makes living with your dog possible. Okay, so spend some time thinking about that and make that a priority, and don't let anybody pressure you into task training or public access or something like that if you have a specific challenge with your puppy or adolescent that is making it hard for you to live in the same home. Second is leash manners. Okay, this is not the same as healing. So I don't love spending a lot of time teaching a puppy to heel only because the other things on this list, in my opinion, take priority. Most handlers, owner trainers, professional trainers even have a certain amount of energy, focus, attention span. The puppy only has so much attention, focus, all of these, food, motivation before they're full, all of these things, which means we have to prioritize. We can't do everything at once with a puppy. So healing is one of those things that, yes, it is a huge thing that all service dogs need to know. It is one of the most important things. However, it also takes a lot of time, a lot of repetition, and a lot of skill on the part of you and your dog. And puppies don't generally have the skills yet because they're puppies. They're still learning. They're in puppy kindergarten, right? They're not in high school level service dog training. What I mean by leash manners is this. You should never, ever move forward when the leash is tight. So if there's any tension on the leash, and I wish I had a leash here, let's just use my cord. So I don't mean the puppy is pulling on the leash, okay? I mean the moment the leash goes from this to this, you stop moving and you do not move forward. I don't care what equipment you're walking your puppy on. I don't care what equipment you plan to use to train healing or not to use to train healing. If the leash is tight, you have to stop moving. I have seen dogs in person drag their owners around on every single piece of training equipment known to man. They come into my facility and they drag their owners around on it because it has to be a part of a training plan. And I have another video on this on the channel about tips for teaching your service dog puppy to heel, which really talks about this consistency piece. But consistency is the most important part. And you can start that on day one by simply never moving forward when the leash goes tight. This teaches your puppy that pulling on the leash doesn't work. And it teaches them that while they're still 8-pound little puppies who can't pull you over as easily. So never, ever, 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 ever move forward when the leash is tight. If later on down the road you're going to be teaching some type of pulling, that's totally separate. We don't need a puppy to learn to pull. You will teach that as a task later on down the road. Other leash skills involve things like collar cues, but even that's going to be a secondary priority for me. That's going to be in foundation training, which we're going to get to the end of at the end of this list. And that's stuff we teach in our foundations course. What I mean here by leash manners really is just that you don't move forward on a tight leash so your puppy doesn't learn to pull. Number 3, you need to provide both freedom and structure, and this needs to be a priority from day one. Freedom is essential for our puppies and all the way through adolescence and in adulthood as well, but especially during adolescence. We want to set that up during puppyhood. We want to provide time for them to sniff freely, to explore freely, to move freely, to be a puppy, to play, to do all of these things. They need that freedom, that ability to make choices. However, if you are currently or have ever lived with a puppy or an adolescent dog, you know that they don't really make good choices very well, right? And if you're a human parent, you know that as well. I have an 18-month-old toddler. He doesn't generally make great decisions, but he still needs freedom and autonomy and all the things. So just like we do with a human child, it is our job with our dogs to set up environments that allow our dogs to have freedom. So what this looks like, for example, is a completely puppy-proofed living room where there isn't anything for them to get into. There are no cords for them to chew or shoes for them to chew. And you're supervising them. So if they do start to chew on the sofa, you can redirect them. We have a video about our puppy raising formula that talks all about this, how it is really important to set up a structure that within the structure allows for freedom. We talk about this a lot in our foundations course when we talk about freedom walks as well. It's a way we do this outside safely. But even just in your home, think about how you can provide an environment that allows for your dog to have a certain level of freedom. Because obviously when I mean freedom, I don't mean just, okay, now you get to go do whatever you want, because we still want them developing good habits. We don't want them developing bad habits. We don't want them getting into trouble or into danger. We don't want them getting hurt. Sorry about that. So I'm not necessarily saying, just go to the park and let your dog off his leash. That's not what I'm saying, because if that's not safe for your dog, then don't do that. But we can provide freedom within a structure that helps promote good choices, good behavior, and safety. And if you need help with that, the best place to ask is going to be inside of our free Facebook group, Train Your Service Dog with Confidence, unless you are a foundation student or academy member, in which case in that community would be the best place. Now, the fourth thing is socialize correctly. So I didn't just put socialization on this list. I put socialize correctly because socialization absolutely does need to be a huge priority for you if you have a puppy. However, in order to socialize correctly, you need to have a little bit more of an understanding of what socialization is, because poor socialization can absolutely do more harm than good. And there is this idea in the service dog world that socialization means taking your puppy everywhere you go, and that isn't it either. I have a whole bunch of YouTube videos on this channel on socialization, what it is, how to do it correctly, and of course we go even more in depth in our foundations course. But I will link some of these videos below because I have just posted the last few months a couple of really great socialization videos: who, what, when, where, why, the biggest mistakes people make with socialization, those types of things, because you really want to have a good understanding of what the socialization process means and what it should look like so you can do it correctly. Because good socialization will give you this really solid foundation to jump off of with your public access training. Poor socialization actually makes everything harder. And then we get to foundation training. So this is the part when people say, what should I be prioritizing in my training? This is what people tend to think. They think, am I prioritizing basic obedience? Am I prioritizing task training or public access or this or that or whatever? But for me, you actually need to prioritize life with your puppy, leash manners, freedom and structure, and socialization, and then you can start to work on foundation training. Now, there might be overlap. There might be pieces of foundation training that you need in order to solve an issue with life with your puppy, for example. But for me, I put this on this list because I wanted to mention this. Even if you've been following me for a while, you already know this. For me, foundation training is not sit, stay, heel, come. Those are behaviors. Foundation training is what we do underneath all of that. Foundation training is the system with which we are training our dogs. It is teaching our puppy the language I am going to use to communicate with them. It is foundation skills and concepts that we will then use to teach sit, down, come, heel, stay. When I work with a dog of any age who's having any training issue, there is almost always a significant fault within their foundation training we have to go back and fix. Now, this video is not a foundation training video. What this is a reminder you have other things you need to prioritize before you get to formal, in quotes, training and before you get into especially task training or public access training. If you have any questions about this stuff, the best place is going to be inside of our Facebook group, Train Your Service Dog with Confidence. If you want to learn more about our foundations course, all of this information is at the link below. The Facebook group, the courses we currently have available, all of that type of stuff is down below. And I will make sure to link some of these videos I've mentioned as well, because we do have a bunch of socialization resources on this channel. And we will have more foundation training information coming up. Speaking of which, we do have our puppy webinar, our free puppy webinar, which you can find that in the link below as well. And that is where we really talk about what foundation training should look like. All right, I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.